My name is Franda. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. My name is Franda. I'm one of the trainers here with Coach Transformation Academy. I am so excited today. I spent the last 15 or so minutes understanding and saying hello to Carolyn Stern. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Carolyn is the president and CEO of EI Experience. She's also a university professor, corporate trainer, certified emotional intelligence and leadership development expert. She's an author and also a professional speaker. The thing about Carolyn that makes her so special is that she's passionate about the importance of emotional intelligence, leadership development, team building in the workplace. She's also helped to pioneer the evolution of emotional intelligence as a leadership superpower. And if you've been with CTA, you know the words about superpower. We do superpower a lot. So what I want to do right now, because I do not want to take up all of your time. So I'm going to turn this over now to Carolyn to tell you more about herself. Over to you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Brenda. Hi, everybody. My name is Carolyn Stern. I'm super excited to be here today, teaching you about coaching with emotional intelligence. What I would love to do today, if possible, if we could all turn on our cameras. And if we're talking about emotions, it's a little bit more personal. So if you're able to turn your cameras on and be brave, right? As coaches, we have to be both flex our empathy as well as our assertiveness. So it's sort of being brave and afraid at the same time. It would be great to have your faces so that I can put some eyeballs and faces to the names. So a little bit about what we're going to do today, and to make this next 60 minutes go by, make it more relevant and practical for you, is really I just kind of want to set up the learning environment. Please don't make me speak for 60 minutes. It'll be really boring. I don't want to, as a university professor, I don't lecture. I do a lot of interactive activities. So we're going to participate like life. The more you get out of it, the more you put into it. Sharing, I'm going to ask you all to share your experience with each other, as well as individually in small groups. So, but if I ask a question and you don't feel comfortable sharing, you don't have to share. You can just say pass. Communication, I just ask that you use the chat when asked to some questions, as well as raise your hand, and one person's just speaking at a time. Rules of engagement, I'm going to start on time and end on time. I know your time is precious, and we're all tired of Zoom fatigue. So you've been probably in one Zoom meeting after another. So I will definitely end on time. And remember, who here is an extrovert like me? Well, those of you that are extroverts, you like to process externally. You love we love to talk. My challenge for you is to stretch yourself and to listen more. And those of you who are introverts, raise your hand. Now all you're scared. No one wants to raise their hand. But for those of you that are introverts, you process internally. So I'm going to ask you to stretch yourself and push yourself and speak more. And the challenge is to speak more, but to also not have all your thoughts figured out. Just put your ideas out there. So we're going to, again, in coaching, our job is to push people from their learning comfort zone into their learning zone, right? We're stretching people. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is put yourself in the coachee's position and stretch yourselves. Last couple of points, just stay present if you can. Turn off your phones, really pay attention for the next 60 minutes. I promise you, you're going to enjoy what I have to teach, even though some of you might be experts and been coaching for years, and some of you might be new in the field. And then finally, confidentiality. So what's said in the room stays in the room. And so I just appreciate that you don't share anyone else's stories but yours. Vegas rules applies. All right, so let's get going on today's agenda. We're going to first talk about what is emotional intelligence. I know it's a big buzzword out there, and I'm curious to hear what you all have to say. going to talk about how coaching relates to emotional intelligence and why it's necessary in your practice. And then I'm going to specifically go through 6 of 15 emotional intelligence skills that are necessary to be a transformational coach. And then we're going to talk about how emotional intelligence is, in fact, necessary in coaching. And then we're going to close. All right, so are we all excited? Yay. All right, let's get going. And thank you for those of you putting on your cameras. It does make the experience a little bit more personable. So we're going to do a check-in. And in the chat, I'd love you to write not only your name and position, but also a one-word feeling. As an emotional intelligence expert, I would be remiss not to ask you how you're feeling. Now, for those of you that are like, I don't know how I feel, I have no emotional vocabulary, here are some emotion words. Here are 30 of them for you to choose from. And if you like this poster, it's right now above my desk. And if you're interested in it, you can download it from our website for free. This was all hand drawn. And I'd love you to name the emotion you're feeling right now in this moment. Okay, Stephen, Enterprise Agile Coach, you're content. Wonderful, nice to meet you, Stephen. Seema, optimistic. I've got content, optimistic, at ease. Content, we've got a lot of content people. Do you know content is a form of happiness, just a lower intensity, right? So there are different forms of different intensities of emotions, and there are many emotions: passionate, curious, positive, optimistic, indifferent, inspired, hopeful. I love Sylvia had a little emoji, right? Nowadays, these young kids don't even know emotion words because they don't need to put a name. They can just put an emoji, right? So they don't even have to know their emotional vocabulary. Focus. All right. Why do you think understanding how people feel is so important in a coaching session? Anyone? Anyone will raise their hand and answer that question out loud or put it in the chat. Why is it so important to know how someone's feeling? Can change the vibe of the session. Absolutely. Yes, you have your hand up. Is it Vinzo?
Venzo.
Vinzo, nice to meet you.
Say likewise, Caroline. Concerning us knowing the emotional state at the beginning of the coaching session is very important, because at times before the coachee comes into your office or wherever you're doing the coaching session, that coachee might be experiencing certain things, and then boom, 4 p.m. is with Carolyn now. He has the coaching session, and we don't know what emotional state he's in. So it's really important for us to know in what state he's in, because if he's in the jealous state or the anger state, he's not going to be fully present with Caroline during the coaching session, and it won't be as much as beneficial as we would want it to be.
Yes, yes, wonderful. And I see Stephen's right. You need to know your audience and meet them where they're at. Absolutely, right? Our job as coaches is to balance our empathy with our assertiveness. It's really important to meet someone where they're at and have compassion for where they're at, but it truly is our job to push them forward, but you can't push them too forward, because that's the assertiveness piece, right? You have to say externally what you're noticing internally, and you need to hold up a mirror. The challenge is if you push people too far, not knowing where their emotional state is, they go from comfort to learning to panic. And that's the worst thing we can do as a coach, is to make it a negative learning experience, because then they're not learning. And you all know, right? As an educator who's been in the university system for 23 years, and I've been studying this for almost 30, I will tell you, people don't learn unless they're motivated to learn. So really understanding the emotional state of where someone's at is critical. And so I want to just check to see who's in the room. And I know there are some of you that have been doing this for many, many years, and some of you that are brand new into coaching. And so I'm going to launch a poll. And I'd like you to answer, what's your experience level with coaching on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 being no work experience or no training at all, to 5 being very experienced in training, you're a coaching pro. I just want to kind of know who's in the room today. Just to get a sense of where people are at. We just talked about you got to meet people where they're at. I want to meet you, most of you, where you're at. So about 51% of you have answered the poll. We'll give a few more minutes to do that. Where are you at?
Yeah, it looks like everyone's claiming moderately experienced and some training.
Okay, and some training.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna launch it in, I'll give them another 10 seconds, about 70% have answered. We're almost done. All right, another 5 seconds, and then I'll end it and launch it. So here are your results. Okay. So overall, about 54% of you are moderately experienced in some coaching. And I hope today, because I don't know what coaching model you learned or what school you went to, but the missing piece and why I've actually created my own model is there was a huge piece that emotional intelligence was missed. And we all know, you know, you can take someone through the steps of coaching, whether it's the GROW model or the ABC DE model or whatever model you've learned on. But the challenge is, are you understanding the emotions, what's underneath the surface of what people are experiencing? And what that includes is their values, their attitudes, their feelings, their thoughts, their beliefs, their assumptions. If we don't talk about those things, how people feel affects how they perform. And so today, what I'd like to do is first start talking about what is emotional intelligence. And in the chat, if you can write what you think emotional intelligence is from your understanding. It's a big buzzword now. We've heard it all the time. You know, Daniel Goleman made it popular in 1995. You know, we've heard the word, but what do you think it means in your own words? Just take a moment and jot that down in the chat. Okay, so Stephen wrote, it means compassion and empathy. It's being able to put yourself in their place. Yeah. Ability to drive my emotions so as to drive my behaviors positively. Logic meets the heart. Yes, love it. I'm aware of my emotions and how I can manage it personally and socially. Right? Ability to understand and process emotional data in real time, as well as past events. Here's the challenge though, right? I think as coaches, we spend so much time thinking about the coachee that we forget how we're feeling in the moment. Maybe your coachee has said something to you that has triggered a past experience for you, and it clouds your judgment in terms of what's the next question you're going to ask to unearth those solutions for them. And so I think it's really important emotional intelligence to not only be paying attention to the other person's feelings, but to also your own. And it's really about kind of like rubbing your head and tapping your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. It's using two parts of the brain, right? It's externally noticing things, but it's also internally noticing things. And so what I want to first start with what is emotional intelligence is this diagram of the iceberg. Remember the Titanic and how it sunk. They thought that they saw a piece of ice in the ocean, but actually it was a gigantic iceberg that killed that ship and made it go down. And the challenge is people are no different. So if you all went on my LinkedIn page to see my credentials, why is Carolyn being the keynote speaker for this webinar today? What are her credentials? You would see I have 5 degrees. I've been in school a very long time. But what you wouldn't see, you would see my IQ. But what you wouldn't see that's underneath the surface that you don't know about me is my lowest competency, emotional intelligence competency is independence. And people are always surprised by that because I run my own company. I'm financially independent. I'm not married. I do things on my own. I travel on my own. However, what you don't know is I have a very overbearing mother. And growing up, I had a helicopter parent that kind of did everything for me. So now as a 50-year-old woman, I still care too much about what people think. My staff jokingly says to me, Carolyn, you pay us to reassure you. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. I need a lot of reassurance in my life. So it's not about being financially independent or being able to go to the movies or travel on my own. It's I'm emotionally dependent. Why? Because my mother did everything for me. I never learned how to stand on my own 2 feet. The challenge is, how does that get in my way as a leader and coach? I might not have those difficult conversations because I want them to like me. And so I think it's really important for you today, and what I want us to do and why I asked you all to put your cameras on is let's get personal. What is going on for you underneath the surface? Because we all have, listen, I've been doing this for many, many years. We all have our own emotional makeup. I'm not proud that I lack independence, but I'm putting that out there for you to see that you can be emotional and strong. They're not mutually exclusive. And so what emotional intelligence is using the information our emotions provide as data. Just like these advertising agencies use consumer behavior as data to sucker us into buying their products, it's the same thing. How do you use emotions as data to make good behavioral choices? And so it's really, as you all said, it's understanding, expressing, and managing your emotions. You got to name it to tame it. And if you're not even aware of how you're feeling, this is why that poster, that emotions poster I started with, is right above my desk as we speak. Because I need to be aware, not only when I'm angry, but also when I'm happy. How do my emotions impact how I show up at my next Zoom meeting or my next coaching client appointment? And so it's really about not only understanding your emotions and managing them, it's about being able to use that emotional data to develop and maintain good relationships with others. And finally, it's about how do you manage your emotions and think clearly and solve problems under pressure. And let's be honest, people, for the last, almost 2 years, we've all been emotional. The gift that COVID has given, and I'm not dismissing all the negative it's brought on in the world, but the gift that it gave is it gave us an opportunity to realize that we do not leave our emotions at the door when we come to work. We bring them to work. And now where the boundaries are blurred and people don't know the difference between work and home because you're all doing it in your house right now. We are now bringing our full selves to work, not just our corporate personas. And so emotional intelligence truly is the game changer for transformational coaching. Are you digging deep underneath the surface to understand your coachee? Because let me tell you, it is about understanding why they do what they do, not just what they do. That's important. So let's talk about coaching and how emotional intelligence. In the chat, I'd like you to tell me, why do you think emotional intelligence is so necessary necessary to use in your coaching conversations? Take a moment and write in the chat. Why is it so necessary? And shockingly, not in the coaching models that many of us learn from in school. We need to check out our feelings before we can process and understand theirs. Yeah, who we're coaching. Emotional intelligence, Valerie, you're speaking my language. It's necessary in absolutely every situation, yes. Understanding and accepting is the key for transformation, absolutely. Awareness starts with awareness, right? Awareness and self-regulation. We are all in one universe, and the coachee is part of us. Trying to put ourselves in their shoes is key. You know, it's interesting, and I don't know why we don't talk about emotions at work, because it's emotions that are our universal language. Regardless of where you're calling from right now, we all have emotions, because guess what? We're all human. Yet we are taught to hide them. We are taught that you've got to put on that poker face and be tough. And the challenge is you've got to get it okay. My whole philosophy at EI Experience, our guiding principle in what we do is we're trying to make it okay to be human in the workplace. So join us in that journey. Yeah, we talk about, we get to see the clients as they are. Yes. But let's get into why or what emotional intelligence skills in particular are necessary. So in my field, I teach emotional intelligence to corporations and to clients, and even my coaching clients. And we use the EQI 2.0 model developed by Multi Health Systems, which is a company in Toronto. It is one of the world's leading emotional intelligence, scientifically validated assessment out there. And coaching uses 6 of these 15 competencies in particular. It uses all of them, but in particular, it uses 6 strong ones. And today, what I'd like to do, if you bear with me, is I'd like you to look inward and take inventory of yourself. How do I fare in each of these competencies? Because how you show up affects how you are as a coach. As I've shared with you, my independence, which is right here, is low. So when I am a coach, I have to be mindful that as much as it's important for me to have people like me, I might have to ask the tough questions. Right? I might have to say something that I'm not comfortable with, because I worry that if I don't, it's my job to pay attention to and know and say what I'm noticing. And so the key that I want to talk to you about today is the first thing we need to have is empathy. And many of you have written that in the chat, right? We need to have empathy and put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. We also need to have self-actualization, which is all about trying to live a life of meaning and purpose. Many of you I saw when you introduced yourself are trying to be transformational coaches. How can you transform somebody else to live the best life that they can if you yourself are not fulfilled in your life? The next one is reality testing, and this one's a really interesting one. This is about, are you seeing what's real? Right now, you're living your reality, but is it actually real? Your reality might not be their reality. Are you making your emotions cloud your judgment? How many of you, are at the office? Remember back 2 years ago when we actually passed people in the office and we would see them and they would pass us in the hallway and they didn't say something to us. And we thought, oh my God, we went through the whole day thinking, oh, Sally's angry at me. And she just didn't see us. That's why she didn't say hello. But we create a whole story in our head of what that means. That means you have low reality testing. You live in la la land, not necessarily what is real. The next one is interpersonal relationships. Can you build a strong relationship, right? Built on trust and compassion. And then the last one is assertiveness. As I said, it's a balance between meeting somewhere where they're at, but also saying what you notice, right? Pushing them beyond their comfort zone. So here's what I want to do. And I noticed someone said, good for me that I was being vulnerable. I'm not proud of going up into a crowd of people that don't know me and say, hey, I've got low independence. I'm a really needy 50-year-old. I don't love doing that. However, here's where I want you to be. I want you to start to get comfortable sharing where you are in your emotional state. I have been coaching people for many, many years on emotional intelligence. And let me tell you, even the most successful people haven't figured it all out. It's a lifelong journey. We never master this. Why? It's because there are days that I'm in the driver's seat of my emotion, and then there are days that my emotions take over. But it's not about winning people, because that win-lose mentality is what gets us stuck in the first place. It's about every day trying to learn more and be better. And that is why, if you see on the side of that PowerPoint, that's actually our tagline: learn more, be better. Right? That's all we're trying to do each day. And so I really want you to be vulnerable and take a good, honest look at yourself. And that's really hard. And that's why I'm asking you to put on your camera so that the world can see, right? Let's put ourselves out there and say, hey, this is me, warts and all. And I'm working on myself to learn more and be better. So let's talk about each one. Self-actualization is really all, oh, what just happened? My PowerPoint just died. Let's try that again. I will try that again. Sorry about that. Do you all see me? I'm not sure. My PowerPoint did not like that. All right. I will start sharing my screen again. Sorry about that, everybody. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Do you see that?
Yep, clear.
Yes, we're good now.
Okay. All right. Wait, it's not happening again. I'm going to try one more time. Okay, there we go. I've been doing this for 2 years. That has never happened to me live on camera. But you know what? There you go. Prove my point.
Life on life's terms, right?
That's right. We're human, man. It all happens to the best of us. All right. So I've just proven that it happens to me as well. So do you all see my screen again? Let's try again. Yes? All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see full screen.
Self-actualization is living a life of meaning and purpose. This is about wanting to be the best you can be. Okay, here's a question for you all. How good are you at that? Are you on the high end of that? That, yeah, you're living a life of meaning and purpose and doing what you were meant to be? If so, raise your hand. Okay. How many of you are on the dark side, like me? Which means I'm too much of this. So I will explain what that means. When you're too self-actualized, it actually means you're never satisfied. You're always wanting to be bigger, better, more. You know, how many degrees do I have? 5. I'm not happy with 5. I want another one. When can I just accept good is good enough? So how many of you are on the dark side like me? Okay, I appreciate it. Now, let's be honest. How many of you are on the low side, which is right now, at this moment in your life? This doesn't mean it's going to be like this in the years to come, but right now at this moment, you're actually low and you're feeling unfulfilled, and maybe you're stuck and you don't want to improve right now. How many of you are feeling low on that side? How many of you are in the middle? Kind of not high, not low. Okay, write that down. I want you to tell me, are you high, low, middle, or dark? Make a note besides self-actualization and then write down what you are. Because in a minute, we're going to talk about how you measure up, how it affects how you coach others. Let's talk about the next one. Assertiveness is the ability to say what you need to say when you need to say it. Okay, this is in a way that's non-offensive. So when I'm angry, I just say I'm angry. And I tell you why I'm angry, but in a calm, respectful, professional manner. I speak up at meetings. How many of you are a high in this area? Raise your hand. Okay, keep your hands up. Are you too high? The dark side of assertiveness is you can dominate discussions. You might intimidate people. You might even damage relationships at times. How many of you are on the dark side of assertiveness at times? How many of you are low in assertiveness? That this diagram of this woman speaking up would be terrifying for you. You wouldn't be the one person saying yes when everybody else is saying, or saying no while everyone else is saying yes. You wouldn't be brave enough, right? Okay, I appreciate it. How many of you are in the middle? Okay, mark it down. I want you to understand your emotional makeup at this moment in time. And by the way, maybe this wouldn't be the way you are if COVID didn't happen, if your life's experience didn't happen. This is just a snapshot of how you are today. Unlike your IQ, which peaks at 18, the good news for all of us is our EQ rises as we get older. So we all have hope. We're a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. All right, let's do the next one. Interpersonal. Interpersonal is your ability to build mutually satisfying relationships based on trust and compassion. How many of you are really high in that and are just able to meet and make connections with people? All right, those of you, keep your hands up. Are you too high? The dark side of interpersonal is you might be too dependent on your relationships, that sometimes you place your happiness on your friendships. How many of you are on the dark side? Okay. How many of you are not good at building relationships? You find it very difficult to make connections with others and create intimacy. Okay. And how many of you are in the middle? Somewhere in between high and low. Write that down. Empathy. Now, how many? Come on, I got to see lots of hands. You're all coaches. I'm assuming you've got some empathy, or else why the hell are you coaching others? So how many of you are high in empathy? The ability to appreciate and understand how someone else feels. Okay, wait, keep your hands up. My guess is many of you are on the dark side, which means you get enmeshed in people's stuff. Sometimes you can take it home with you and put the weight on your shoulders. Here's the challenge. A lot of people in the healing professions have too much empathy. The challenge with having too much empathy is you don't push people to push themselves from their comfort zone to their learning zone. You almost coddle them too much so that they stay stuck. Remember I said, coaching is a fine line between meeting someone where they're at, but also pushing them from comfort to learning. And as we all know, learning is not comfortable, right? It's pushing us beyond what we are comfortable of. How many of you, and be honest, it can happen in coaching, actually have a hard time caring and appreciating how someone else feels? Because by the way, there are 3 types of empathy. There is perspective taking empathy. I can put myself, I can understand how people think. There's affective empathy, which is I understand how you feel. And there's compassionate empathy, is I understand your feelings and I want to help. Some of us have really good cognitive empathy, but not necessarily affective or compassionate empathy. Let's talk about how many of you feel like you're kind of in the middle in this one. Not really high, not really low. Okay, let's talk about reality testing, which is our next one. Reality testing is an interesting one. Reality testing is you don't let your emotions cloud your objectivity. It is seeing things as they really are and focusing on objective evidence. How many people do not let their emotions cloud their objectivity and would be high in this area? Okay. How many of you are on the dark side? Which means that you actually focus too much on objective evidence, that you might lack some empathy. Or think about it, if you're too realistic, you might not be optimistic, right? You might lack optimism or empathy or overlook the viewpoints of others. How many of you, and be honest, are like those people on American Idol? They think they can sing, but they can't carry a tune. You live in La La Land. How many of you are like that? Oh yeah, there's someone that's really proud of living in La La Land. I know it's a fun place to live. All right. How many of you are in the middle? And now, how many of you are questioning yourself going, I don't know, is my reality real? I don't know. Now I'm all confused. Thank you, Carolyn. All right, so write it down. Using those 6 competencies. Self-actualization, where do you rank? Assertiveness, where do you rank? Interpersonal relationships, where do you rank? Empathy, where do you rank? Reality testing, where do you rank? I want you to think about how you measure up in those areas. And let's talk about in pairs. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this. Given your emotional makeup, what do you need to be aware of when coaching others? What do you need to be aware of when coaching others? Okay, I want you to think about, are you too empathetic? Are you too objective? Are you not objective enough? Are you not fulfilled enough right now? Are you not speaking up and you're letting a question go unsaid? I really want you to think about how this all comes into play for your coaching conversations. So we're going to put you, Soham is going to put you into groups of 2 for 5 minutes. And we're going to talk about this, and then I'd like you to come back and figure out how your emotional state happens. Now I see, Allison, you have your hand up. Do you have a question, or did you just forget to put your hand down? Okay, no questions. So let's go back into our breakout rooms, and we'll spend 4 minutes plus a minute extra at the end and talk about, given your emotional makeup, what do you need to be aware of? Are we ready in the breakout rooms?
Hey, Carolyn, this is Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen, did you not have anyone in your room?
Busala or Busala was there, no video, but they were on mute. And I don't know if they heard me or not, and they pulled out.
Okay, do you want, let's get you in another, yeah, like room 3, for instance. Soham, do you want to put Stephen in room 3? Because Sophia's in there and
Yeah.
nobody's in there.
Oh, sure.
Yes, I'll do that. Just one-
Thank you.
No problem. Sorry about that, Stephen.
It's okay.
Yeah, I don't know, some people haven't joined. I'm not sure why.
Done.
Yeah, so just let's make sure, Soham, that everyone is with somebody. Everyone is with somebody, yeah. Okay, perfect. How many more minutes, Soham?
Hi, sorry. So is it, I believe it's 4 minutes.
Yeah, no, how many minutes left? Is it
Sorry?
done? Are they
Yeah.
done? Want to bring them back?
Yes, yes. I'll close the rooms then. Okay.
You're closing them?
Yeah, done. They're coming back.
All right. All right. So let's talk about that. So Dimitri, you were one of the first ones back. So how was that for you?
I mean, it was pretty good. I'm an advocate of these type of discussions, so it was pretty good. As far as answering the question, me and Venzo, I'm not sure where he went, but essentially we came to the conclusion that it's ultimately about mindfulness, the ultimate form of mindfulness in the sense of being able to be mindful of your own emotions, or your own triggers, things of that nature, your vibes or your value system, and then as well as your clients, because being able to identify your clients, you may know that certain questions may not be appropriate to ask at the moment, or other questions is more pivotal to ask at the moment. But all that is encompassed of mindfulness.
Yes. So remember, so much of our communication is not just what we say. So much of our communication has to do with what we think and what we believe to be true. And sometimes it is what we say or don't say, or do or don't do. And so I think it's really being careful to think about how your emotional makeup impacts how you have those coaching conversations. Now, the one competency I didn't mention that is a big part of coaching is emotional self-awareness. How aware are you of your emotional state? When I asked you the question, how many of you are, what do you feel? One word feeling. Did you go blank and say, I don't know, good, fine? Well, good or fine are not feelings. Those are state of beings. And so it's really important to name it for you to tame it. Okay, let's talk about how these emotional intelligence skills impact our coaching conversations. Well, number one, you've got to remain objective, right? You have to, and that is all about reality testing, right? This is all about you not letting your emotions cloud your objectivity. Number two, it's also about building trust and having compassion. Well, that's all about interpersonal relationships. Number three is really about respecting other people's feelings, right? You don't know how people feel. Even if you and your coachee have gone through the exact same experience, you might not have the same feelings about that experience. So just because I don't live your life doesn't mean I can't connect with the feeling you're feeling. So for instance, I have never been homeless, but I definitely know what it feels like to be dismissed. And so when I walk on the street and see person after person passing people that are homeless on the street, not looking them in the eye, I can feel that pain of what it would feel like to constantly not feel like my existence matters. So whether or not I give someone the money that are sitting on the street or not, I always look them in the eye and say, have a good day or hello, so that they know that their existence matters. Why? Because I know how crappy it felt when I didn't feel like I mattered. So respecting other people's feeling is all about empathy. Now, the one we didn't talk about that I do want to highlight today is being emotionally self-aware. How many of you think you're high in that area, that you actually are really aware? Okay, Stephen, keep your hand up. Are you too high and on the dark side like me? The dark side is I overthink everything. I focus on insignificant details because I've been in therapy for so many of my years of my life that I constantly am thinking of my emotional state to the point that it's time wasted.
I used to be,
Sorry?
right? I can appreciate what you're saying. I used to be. It took me about, this is 14 years as a coach. It took me about 6 to 7 years to get to where I'm at.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it is not, right? Again, currently I'm on the dark side, or any of you like me. Am I the only one in the room? Oh my God, now I feel really, really bad for myself. Okay, how many are low and have no idea what you're feeling and don't have a big emotional vocabulary at all? Okay, and how many of you are kind of in the middle? Keep that in mind, because being emotionally self-aware is all about emotional self-awareness. Let's talk about saying what you see, saying externally what you're noticing internally. Now, as the coachee, a lot of times they don't get to have a mirror looking at themselves. So when you notice them, their body changing, when you ask them a question, speak about that. Hey, I noticed that you went flushed or your eyes welled up while we were talking about that. What is that about? Or would you like to share what that's assertiveness is really setting, that's what saying what you see. And then the last one is setting meaningful goals, which is all about self-actualization. You and I both know it's just a conversation if it's not action-oriented. Coaching needs to be action-oriented. You need to move them to set goals for themselves. So let's talk about each one very quickly. The first one is remaining objective. Right? As a coach, you will need to see things as they really are. This is about staying neutral in your language. This is about not letting your bias or judgments or emotions cloud your objectivity. And this is truly about being present and mindful. Right? The next one is building trust and having compassion, and to develop great mutually satisfying relationships. This is about building a relationship based on trust and compassion. And by the way, there is a difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is feeling for. Empathy is feeling with. That doesn't mean you have to have experienced their life, but you have to tap into how you can relate to the emotion. Respecting other people's feelings. This is all about appreciating how someone might feel, but this is also about setting good boundaries. And Brene Brown says it best: the people that are the most compassionate are also the most boundaried. Please do not take home your coachee's problems. Can you imagine if a surgeon or a first-line respondent would take home what they saw in a day and bring it home to their personal lives? That would be very draining. It's important that you set boundaries, because ultimately when you don't and you coddle people, basically what you're saying to them is, I think you lack the skills to handle this yourself. This is also about feeling with them, not for them. Let's talk about being emotionally self-aware. This is really about making sure you are aware of your emotional state during, before, and after the coaching conversation. Do you check in with how you're feeling before your call begins? The other is ensuring your emotions are not guiding the conversation, right? It's parking your emotions and not letting your personal agenda guide the conversation. And it's paying attention to how you're feeling, but also meeting someone where they're at. Now, saying what you see is all about making sure you're asking thought-provoking questions in order to help them learn. It's sharing what you're noticing that they might not be aware of. How many of you have blind spots? I don't have blind spots, but you must have blind spots, right? That was a joke. You can laugh. You can also, it's also about helping them discover and come to their own conclusions. And lastly, it's really about pursuing meaningful goals. And this is really about helping them set stretch goals, not so big that it's difficult that they won't succeed, right? Because success breeds success. You want them to be attainable, but you do want them to stretch themselves so that they try and are motivated to do more. And so setting goals are like setting SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And really, again, your job is to take them from their comfort zone into their learning zone, but not into panic. Because if it's panic, it becomes a negative experience. All right, I don't think we're going to have time to do this last exercise, but what I would like you to do in the chat is tell me, based on this conversation today, what are you going to start doing to be a more effective coach? And I don't care if you've been coaching for, for over 3 or 4 decades. I'd like you to think about, what do I need to start doing to be better? What do I need to stop doing to be better? And what do I need to continue doing to be better, given what we learned about today on emotional intelligence? Take a moment and write it in the chat. Stop bringing clients' problems home. Yes, Natalia, so many of us, right? It's so hard to not take on the world's problems, for sure. Anyone else? What do you need to start, stop, or continue doing? Continue where I am, doing what I'm doing. I'm in a good place right now. That's great, Stephen. Understand that I can't solve a person's issue, but I can just guide them through solving their own way. Absolutely. You're not there to solve their problems. You're there to support and guide them. Check in before and after and during a session. Yes, checking your emotions throughout the day is critical. That's why I have that poster above my desk. Start to talk to clients more about their emotional intelligence and help them discover their EI. Always stay neutral. Yes. Start emotional clean slate before engagement. Stop holding back from challenging. Yeah. And continue striving for balance. Love that, David. All right. So we've only got a few minutes, so let's close. In reflection, I'd like you to end with a one-word feeling. I'd like you to think about your golden nugget. What did you learn today that I didn't teach you anything that was revolutionary. These are all things you probably know, but maybe didn't focus on, or I put a name to it. So what did I put a name to today that really stuck out to you that will help your coaching practice? And then what is your goal? Because again, I would be remiss to not make you stretch yourselves into being better coaches. So as much as you might be good at where you're at, how can you be better? Remember, the whole philosophy is learn more, be better, and then ultimately teach others. So for those of you that don't remember your emotions, I'm going to put the poster up one more time. What are you feeling? What's your goal? And what was your golden nugget? You could all write it in the chat, or just even unmute yourselves and one at a time, or raise your hands, and we can ask people to share in the last minute or two we have together. Yes.
Benzo.
Yeah, Benzo, sorry.
Caroline, I'm sorry I spoke twice, but this is something I had to tell you.
Yeah.
You just defined the word vulnerability.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Really, thank you.
You know what, thank you, Benzo. That's been a gift. I was always a very emotional person, and I thought that was a weakness, and now I know it's my superpower. I think I really want to teach people that emotions don't make you weak. You can be emotional and strong. They're not mutually exclusive. So yes, I'm one person at a time. I'm gonna change the world by just teaching people emotions are not a sign of weakness. Thank you. Stephen.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for 14 years, and I've got to get with Venzo because I've never had an office. Dude, what are you doing? No, I really appreciate this. It actually reinforced several items. And a long time ago, I don't know why, but I latched on to a theory, coin theory. So I teach it all the time. There's two sides to a coin. There's two sides or two stories, right?
Yeah.
So, and I use that every time I enter somewhere. What is going on with them versus what I see?
Yes, I love that.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Going underneath the surface. Remember what killed the Titanic, right? The iceberg is so much deeper than what we actually experience. So I'm just going to end with questions. And say a big thank you from the heart and the mind. If you're interested in knowing more about us and what we're doing and trying to make it okay to be human, one person in the workplace, please sign up for our newsletter. I would love to have you as part of our team, or follow us on social media, because we're constantly posting about emotional intelligence for one blog a week. So you'll certainly learn things. Are there any questions?
Not legal.
Sophia.
Good evening, Carol. Thank you very much. Was insight topic we have touched with that I'm going through myself. You have given me an itch to know that I can balance, because I've been going with an emotional roller coaster about my clients' feelings, getting so deep sometimes with empathy with them, and getting to take all the work from the clients to my home. You've given me awareness now to be able to balance that and bring a good atmosphere back home and leave my emotionals at work. Thank you very much. It was very insightful.
So, Sophia, one thing that I would say to you, a couple things, go search Boundaries with Brene Brown. It's a great 10-minute video that she talks about what I spoke about, which is all about having compassion, but still having boundaries. And the other thing is that I would look into is self-differentiated leadership, which is all about still feeling with, but knowing that you're separate from others, right? And that's by Edwin Friedman. I think the book is called A Failure. Is it something about a failure to nerve or something like that? But Edwin Friedman, all about self-differentiated leadership. Yeah, perfect. And then Ali, you have.
Thank you very much.
No problem, Sophia. Ali.
Yeah, so I just had two quick questions. So let's say if you had either a client or a coach or a colleague, whomever that, ask you the question, so, well, how can I raise my emotional intelligence? How can I raise my EQ? And then the second question following that would be, can it be mastered?
Okay, I'm going to answer the second question first. I think that whole mastered gets in our way. I think it's a lifelong process. I think there are days that I'm in the driver's seat, and then there are days that my emotions take over. And you have to remember, I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, and I am a very emotional person who feels things deeply. What emotional intelligence truly is about being intelligent about your emotions. So being bigger than your emotions. But there are days that I'm not. And this is my life focus. This is what I spend every day doing, is talking about people's emotions all day long. So I think it's my life journey. And I think it's all our life's journey. The challenge is, and why I'm so passionate about this, is for some strange reason, we were taught that emotions should be kept outside the office. But we all know that we all have emotions. And hiding them isn't clever, it's just hiding. And so what COVID did is that we were so emotional with worried about our safety and all of that got added. We were no longer able to push them under the rug because they were so in the face. What I don't want to do is, when the pandemic does finally subside, that we go back to the way it was and put on our corporate persona. So I need all of you to help me on my journey, that being emotional is not a bad thing, it's human. And how we feel affects how we perform. Think of the last time you were emotional and creative. Didn't happen. Think of the last time you were emotional. Did you solve a problem? Find a solution to a problem clearly? Probably not. And so, yeah, looking beyond the, James said it best, looking beyond the surface is what hurt the Titanic, absolutely. And so I don't think we master it. I think it's that win-lose, because listen, when I lose and my emotions take over, that's a great life lesson. And if I always want to win at my emotions, then I miss out those learning lessons. Now, the good news, to answer your first question, is yes, it can be developed, learned, and enhanced. That is why I am recommending that you follow us on social media, because that is exactly what I teach my clients. I teach them how to be bigger than emotion. And listen, we all have muscle. Some of them are underutilized. Supposedly I have a 6-pack in here. If I did more crunches, my 6-pack would come up. The same thing with emotional muscles. If you do more exercises, they will become stronger. And so even though I still struggle with my independence, I am much stronger than I was 20 years ago. And so again, I still screw up. And when I do, I learn from it and apologize and move on. But it is a life journey. And remember, some of this is nature and some of this is nurture, right? And so if you're part of an organization, or if you're working with organizations that don't value these things, that they only value passion and enthusiasm, but you have to cry in the bathroom, what kind of culture is that? What we need to teach people is feelings are not facts, they're just feelings, not good or bad, right or wrong. just feelings. And like clouds, they come and go. And they can provide us with a lot of wisdom. So I know that was a very long answer to a very short question, but I hope that answered both.
Hold on. It did. I took a lot from it. Thank you.
All right, I have taken 8 minutes of your precious time, and I know time is not our friend. Time is finite, but your energy is not. So I hope I've left you with great energy to take on the day and be a transformational coach and continue to change the world, right? One person at a time. So good luck, everyone. Hope to see you and connect with you on social media and our newsletter, all right? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much, Carol.
Very good.
No problem. Take care.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
God bless you.
Thank you.